All right, first, good afternoon, and thank you for those of you who took the opportunity to take us up on this invitation to come in and begin an open dialogue with our Citizens Police Review Board and with our newly formed chat team here in the city of Modesto. My name is Rod Cochran. I'm the pastor here at Christian Love Modesto, and I have this honorable position of being able to bridge the gap between the spiritual and the communal, because I do not think there's a separation. Part of what we've always wanted here is to bring light and salt to a dark and bitter world. Part of that is not only addressing the spiritual needs, but all of the basic needs of our community. And some of those needs can be better addressed with services and providers, along with our prayers and our spiritual service. So this is important. This will be the first of hopefully many dialogues where we'll come in and bring our community representatives and leaders to this place to talk now, so that when things occur, that we'll have a dialogue already in place, we'll already be familiar with one another, and that way we won't have to get introduced in times of turmoil or challenge. I'm just a firm believer in preventive work rather than reactionary work. So now my faith dictates that I don't begin anything without an invocation for God to join us. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but we enlist the call on the God of the Bible. So if it is your practice as well, please join us. But if not, whatever faith you give yourself to, there's a little ring in this, if you guys can adjust that, yeah. Let's have a word of prayer, and then I'll get our review council to come in and start our discussion, introducing themselves, what brought them here, and we'll start with our very own Austin Grant. I'm a little biased because he's a member of our congregation, so I'm going to let him begin this, and then bring the rest of the representatives for the Police Citizens Review Board up and have you meet them, and then we'll have a time to hear from our chat team, at least the representatives, what they do, when to call, and then a little bit about them as well. And we'll keep these lines open so that we can always be in discussion. But let's pray. God, thank you so much for our time together today. And we are grateful for every opportunity we have to connect with one another and join in serving the community of Modesto and the county of Stanislaus. We take it in honor, God, and esteem it valuable for us to be connected to the commitment to bring the most good to the most people. So use this time and make it beneficial as we get to know one another, our services, our area of expertise, and where we can enlist the ingenuity, the innovation, and the expertise of others, so that we might bring a whole approach to wholeness and wellness in our community. Bless our time. Let it be fruitful. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Still a little ringing, guys. Maybe a little that effect out of it for the reverb. If you can take some of that out, I'd appreciate it. Yeah. All right. So Austin Grant, if you're going to start us with a little introduction about what the review board is. Yes.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. We are meet here to see who the Civilian Police Review Board are and the members. And I will not be speaking too much to you guys today. That's going to be through our chairman, who is Brad Hahn, and our vice chair, who is Nico Solario. They'll be talking to you guys about who we are as a group and why we came together. And before we begin, me and Kenneth will kind of give our own individual perspective on why we joined the Civilian Police Review Board, and I will go first, and Kenneth, you can follow me after I'm done, and then Brad and Nico can follow. Well, I joined the Civilian Police Review Board because, as you guys know, there has been a lot of talk about critical incidents with the police department and civilians. For me, I would really want that to stop and more alternative responses to be presented, and also that we can actually show the police department some accountability as well. But not only focusing on those things as far as their accountability and their alternative responses, but also making sure that they get the proper help and need to provide good service to the community that they work in. It's very hard to be a police officer. We don't know what it is like to be a police officer. At times we can look on the media and just say, well, it's a very easy job to do if we don't use our gun. But in a time of need and a time of struggle, they might have to. So just understanding that they get those services that they making sure that the ones that do not follow those precedents, that they are held accountable for their actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ken Bryant, and a little bit about my background. I was born and raised here in Modesto, actually born on MJC West Campus, which at that time was an Army hospital. I grew up around here, lived in Ceres for a while, but have virtually spent all of my life here. And I've always been involved in a variety of different activities, youth baseball, the Modesto JCs. I was in the Modesto Fire Department for almost 30 years. I served as their union president for about a decade. I retired 22 years ago as a battalion chief. And one of the reasons that I was interested in this, I guess the way I would characterize it, I was less than enthusiastic about the experiences that I had with our police force when I was on the fire department. When I was an incident commander, I often said that I thought, not all the officers, but a fairly good percentage of them, conducted themselves like warriors or gladiators when they were on the scene of an emergency incident. And they seemed to have this us versus them mentality, and I found that offensive. I got in trouble one time when I was the union president. Our fire engine over here at Station 2, which is used to be right around the corner here, it's now been moved out to Martin Luther King Drive, but we had an incident where someone shot at our fire engine and narrowly missed the firefighter's head when the bullet went through the cab of the fire engine. And I was contacted by a B reporter as the president of our association, and he asked me what I thought about it, and I said, well, obviously I'm disappointed. I said, we don't think any less of the people over there. I think the way I put it, and I learned a lesson from this, was that we don't think any less of those people over there than we do of anybody else in the community. We're there to provide help and assistance. We don't care about their economic situation or their socioeconomic situation. We don't view them any differently than anybody else. Well, that wasn't exactly how he printed it. And shortly after that, I got a call from the Police Officers Association, and they wanted to know why I characterized us as the good guys. And in fact, that's the term I use. I said, we're the good guys. We're there to help everybody. And they said, what are we, the bad guys? And my comment was, well, if a shoe fits. Oh. And so then I received a call, and I don't recall the gentleman's name. I apologize for that. But he was the president of the NAACP chapter here in Modesto. And he invited me to attend one of their meetings. He said, I'm sure your intentions were good, but he said, the terms that were printed in the paper were offensive. And so I said, really? And so I attended their meeting and met a lot of people that I had never met before and gained a different perspective. And so from that, it affected the way I manage incidents in the fire department. And so when this opportunity presented itself, I thought, I've been away from the job for 20 plus years, and I've been away from the police department for 20 plus years, and I don't know if that culture still exists there or not, but I think I bring some valuable insights from my experiences, and so I wanted to be a part of this. Councilman Bavaro here encouraged me to apply for it, and so here I am. And I have to tell you that my experience so far with the leadership in the police department and the folks that I've had an opportunity to interact there with there, it seems that their culture has changed markedly. And I credit a lot of that to the leadership of Chief Gillespie, who's the most recently appointed police chief. And so I'm pleased to see that. But having said that, I think our responsibility is to review all their policies and procedures. At our last meeting, we formed some subcommittees, and Austin and I and Nancy Smith, who's a member of the board, were appointed to a subcommittee to examine their use of force policies. And so that's our charge as a subcommittee, and we will be reporting back to the main board on what we find and what we determine, and come back with some observations and possibly some recommendations. But that's basically why I'm here. And I'm pleased to be here to represent us today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brad Hahn. I am going to be 69 in December, and I was born here in Modesto, lived on Elm Street, went to Modesto, Franklin, then Mark Twain, then Modesto High, and then MJC, then UOP to get my degree in engineering. But, and my parents lived, even after we were married, until my dad passed away, and then my mom went into care home after living with us for 2 years, which if my wife was here, she could tell you lots of stories about that. it was time, but I love Modesto, and I want it to be a place, and it's always for me, I wanted it to be so that my kids, if they wanted to stay here, would feel proud to stay in Modesto. And now, I just was in San Diego last week visiting my oldest granddaughter's going to college in San Diego. So for her to be able to come back to Modesto, and things have changed in the last years. Through the time I was on the city council for 8 years, and really learned to understand all the things that were going on. When it came to the police, the folks that I had dealt with, Roy Wasden and what's the second? The big guy with no hair. Anyway, the one that just was here, and then Brandon, and I watched,
The chief.
yeah, the former chief.
Carroll.
Galen Carroll. I know him like a brother, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, I watched something happen, because my second oldest brother was a policeman in Modesto Police Department. And I understand the culture. What you said was very true. They were there to rumble, and they made it a point to do that. And right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the way it was. But I watched a change, and you know what the difference was? Was relationships. What you said is 100% relationship. Roy Wasden, God bless him, has lots of faults like all of us.
Right.
And so did Galen, and so does our current chief. But they reached out. And that's why when there's an event that has happened nationwide, I remember listening to Wendy Bird one time. Something happened within the last year, and she said, the first thing I did was call the chief. And it was like, that's what you do. I called the chief to find out what was going on before I even made any kind of value judgment on what even happened.
Right.
Which is really there. Now, you got to remember, we're dealing with people. If people weren't involved in this, people being policemen and people being people in the community, we wouldn't have this to be here, would we?
No.
But because we're dealing with people, and people react different ways, and sometimes wrong, sometimes right, we have to deal with those things. But what got me to want to be on this board was I felt I had to do this. This was my duty to the community, to be sure, because at the beginning, you start, when we did Forward Together, it took 1.5 years to get the recommendations together. We were dealing with people from both ends of the spectrum and everybody in the middle. And while I thought I was a certain place, I was viewed as something much different by people, but I can't help that.
Right.
But what we did was something almost miraculous. We came together and came to a unified, this is what we need to do, and it was something that the police chief, the police union, everybody was saying, yes, this is what, because when we first started out in the Forward Together, the police guys said, we don't need this. What are we doing this for? You know, it's just going to be, and then as I began to see how it brought the community together and it really, accountability is a good thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It is a good thing. And so that brought us all together, and we honestly, I never thought, I would have told you when we first started Forward to Modesto, it was going to be a train wreck. And it turned out that we all ended up, nobody got everything they wanted, believe me, but we ended up agreeing on this pathway forward. And now that we've got the group together, and I'm the chairman for 1 year, and then we're gonna rotate the chairmanship because there's nothing inherently special about that. It's just I run the meeting, which I had a run-in with a guy last time. I thought, oh, why did I volunteer for this? But anyway, yeah, heavy on the word volunteer, you know. Right. If I was being paid for it, I guess I could put up with it, but you know. But anyway, I think that we're on a path of, it's slow moving, it's hard to get going. In every meeting, we have something come up like this meeting. You know, Austin says, we want to do this meeting. Well, wait a minute, you guys are under the Brown Act. You can't have more than 4 people here. You know, just stuff like that. You know, we wouldn't think about that. But I try to run the meetings more like, I just said, like kind of like a Bible study. You know, everybody gets to chime in, everybody gets to do what they can do. But there's times when I have to say, nope, you got to stop, you know. Yeah. So, but I keep going back to relationships. Everything is relationship. I'm teaching that to my daughter or my granddaughter who is in college. Everything is relationships, everything. And if you build relationships and work together and be a servant, and that's the one thing I saw that actually put me back on my heels when the basic requirements of there are three points to what you have to be a Modesto police officer, and one of them is have a servant's heart. And that, I just like, what? From where my brother's, you know, culture was to now, that's beautiful. And therefore, I think there's a hope that we can make this work. Bad things are going to happen. I can guarantee it, because there's humans involved. And when it does, we're going to work through it as a community. But we're on a good path, and I believe that the group that is there is very, very committed to making this work. And you should be involved with the group and come watch us on Zoom, comment, do whatever you need to do, because we need to hear from the community to be sure that we're doing it right. So Nico's next.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
He's actually the vice chairman, but he keeps trying to take over from me.
Got to.
Hello, everybody. Nico Solorio. I'm 30 years old. I'm from Modesto. I was born in Turlock, but raised in Modesto my whole life. And my background and reasoning wanting to be on this board is, to me, it's interesting. It's unique. Growing up, my stepfather was an Oakland police officer. So the relationship that he had with my mom, I mean, it was a great relationship. I learned a lot of, you know, values from him. But there was rocky times that he would come home and there was misunderstandings, I guess, in the household. I guess I would describe it as like a power struggle. And it wasn't healthy in my eyes. You know, I could tell that there was things that he would bring home from work to the house, and it affected the household. So, you know, that was at a young age from 8 to like 12. And then growing up a little bit older, I now have a family member in the sheriff's department, and I see kind of the same thing happening there, you know, bringing home work issues and causing issues inside of the home. And so for me, that brought up just officers' mental state, wanting to be sure that they're getting the proper care that they need to deal with a lot of the trauma that they see being on the force. I was also a part of Forward Together. It started back in 2021. Took, like Brad said, like a year and a half. It was originally supposed to be 6 to 9 months. So we were dedicated. You know, we went at it for about a year and a half. I got interested in Forward Together from the Modesto March. So I don't know if you guys know about the Modesto March. It was after George Floyd. A lot of the protests were happening, and we had, I mean, thousands of people march from 10th Street, Brennan Theaters, all the way down McHenry to like Target, basically, and back. And that, to me, it showed how many people wanted change. And for me, I said, well, you know, I love speaking up, I love protesting and all that, but there has to be a different way as well. And so I decided to take a step forward and apply for Forward Together and be the change that I wanted to be, the way I wanted to do it, and learn the politics behind it, you know, how to make proper policy changes to actually go into effect so that we can better the community and policing. So I got involved with Forward Together, and then we came out with the recommendations. I applied for the Police Review Board. I'm on it now, and I'm a co-chair. I'm excited for it. There's 9 of us on this board, and we all have, there's I think 5 of us that serve 4 years or so, and then the other 4 serve 5 years on the board. And then we can serve up to 2 terms, and then new community members can come in and join the board as well. Like Brad said, we're chair and co-chair for a year, then we vote new people in. The city also hired an independent review auditor. So we have a contract with the independent review auditor where any incidences from the day that they sign their contract with us to present time that the police have with the community, any fatal shootings, anything like that, we can actually ask the independent review auditor to review the incident and provide us a scope of what they felt went wrong or went right in that incident. Sure. So that's very exciting. For me personally, I was hopeful that the independent review auditor would be able to kind of go back maybe 6 months to a year, maybe longer, because there are past incidences that I wanted to be reviewed. Unfortunately, that's just not what the contract looks like. Maybe later on in the future we can change that up and look into that kind of stuff, because those past incidents were a reason why we're here today, and that's a main reason why I thought they were going to hire that independent review auditor. Just a little more insight about the review board. There's actually going to be a conference called NACOLE in Chicago next month, and it's been going on for I think 15 or 20 years. I have the privilege to attend that conference. I'm looking forward to that conference. We're going to be able to hear from Chicago's very own and Community Police Review Board. We're going to be able to hear from mothers of victims that have been killed by police officers. We're going to be able to look into different policies. There's like a taser policy that we'll be able to look into and hopefully bring back to the community. I'm just excited to bring a lot of information back to our board, see the differences on how other boards run it versus how we run it. Our bylaws are very strict on what we can do and what we can't do. Like Kenan said, there are subcommittees. They're on the policies and procedures. Brad and myself and Wendy Bird are going to be on the reducing arrests in Latino youth. So from my remembrance, in 2021 or 2022, all youth arrests, there was, I want to say it was like 65 to 70% of youth arrests was Latinos. To me, that's a very high number, and I want to look into why that number is so high and what we can do to lower that number. That's a lot of arrests for Latino youth, and that can kind of cause an avalanche in my eyes to get them into the wrong path. We need to make sure we can correct them at that young age. Why are they getting arrested? What do they need? Any resources, things like that. And I just really want to build a better trust in the community, with the police in the community, better trust with the Civilian Review Board in the community, so that they know that we are here to listen, we are here to speak up for them as well. We finally all got our own emails. Anyone can email us. You guys can join our Zooms, they're live. QR codes. QR codes. You guys can scan those and you'll get our contact information there. And then I just want greater accountability from the police department and yeah, just better trust with the community. So, you know, that's a little bit about me. I'm excited for this meeting here, and hopefully Chat can give you guys some more insight on their program. It's a great program. They're very busy themselves, and I'll let them introduce themselves, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Nico. Sure, go ahead.
I think it's an important point that everybody understand that our authority is pretty limited. Any of the observations that we make and recommendations that we come up with, our path is to recommend those to the city manager. And then the city manager, and I'm sure he'll have input from the council, will take whatever action they deem appropriate relative to the recommendations and suggestions that we make. I don't want people to have the impression that we can tell the police chief to change his policies and practices. That's not our charge. Our charge is to make recommendations and observations through the city manager's office. So.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Go ahead, Austin.
Okay, if you guys look up top, you guys will see the QR codes. That's going to take you to the City of Modesto website for CPRB, and that's going to have a lot of our meeting times that we have every single month. As you guys know and heard about, you guys can't necessarily question through Zoom anymore, so you guys have to come to the meetings in person. Yes, the meetings are at 5 o'clock, so it can be rather difficult for some of you guys to make it. But however, understand that your guys' Civilian Review Board always ask a lot of questions, and so the meeting always lasts about 6:30 to 7 o'clock. So don't think you're coming in late. So you're just coming in right on time usually. And then the next QR code that will be shown up here by Janine is that you guys will actually be able to see the Forward Together recommendations as well. So you guys can actually follow along through some of the things that we're doing when it comes to use of force, through the Latino arrest and alternative responses. You guys can actually see those recommendations on the site that will be provided to you guys through the QR code. And also too, public comment's very important at some of our meetings. We are in a small room at the Del Porto room. At the City of Modesto, it's on the second floor. It would be really good to fill up that room, so then we have to move somewhere else to have a bigger area so we can have more public comment. So right now we do have a really good small group of people that come regularly and they ask some really good questions. Now, and it's like I've said online and plenty of times the pastor, like you can only complain so long behind the keyboard. So you have to make sure that you actually go to some of these meetings and actually put in real input and also utilize those contact emails. I mean, we all look at those emails every single day and we're always looking to talk to the community about some of the issues that they have. So really utilize us. We work for you guys. We don't work for the city, we work for you guys. So just make sure that you guys utilize us and have fun doing it too. We're all trying to work here together and we're all trying to have a really good City of Modesto. So always keep that in mind, you guys.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you. No, you please go right ahead. I want to transition now and thank the review board and its representatives for coming in. Why I think that's important is because we cannot simply always think the route to change is to become adversarial to the process. Sometimes we have to get involved with the process. This is a great launching point for involvement. Just connecting with the board that hears the inquiries of the citizens. They will be that voice for you, so you can bring those things to them like, hey, I see this happening. What are you guys doing about it? It might be a point that they have not thought of. And I want our leadership here at Christian Love Modesto to see a transitioning occurring. This is not necessarily a law enforcement issue. It's more of a social issue. And that's why I asked not only for the review board to come, but for representatives of our chat team to be here. It's a change in paradigm in thinking. And why it's unique for us is because right outside of our doors, the world is sitting. And they are struggling with issues that civil code, civic code, and law does not cover. A law enforcement officer can only do so much to bring the type of assistance and support these individuals need. And we've already had a few occurrences where out of our social muscle memory, we've called 911 and expected law enforcement to handle it. When literally a social worker, a psychologist or therapist, someone could do a better job assisting the citizens that sit outside our door on our sidewalks here, rather than law enforcement. And I think it should become our first form of outreach and connection with them. So I want the officers to come. They represent a 6-member team, I think you were telling me, 6 members. Inaugurally 6 members, but they are opening for more positions. But a chance for us to meet these officers, hear a little bit about them, and when we utilize their services. I think that's important for us here as the leadership at the church, but in this community of West Modesto as well. If there's another form of assistance, we need to avail ourselves with how it operates, what its functions are, and what its limitations are. So I'm going to let each officer come. Now, be kind with your questions and your comments. They are not public speaking professionals, but they are professionals at their positions, and they're going to do their best to answer your questions. All right, so just one at a time, come and introduce yourselves.
Hello, everyone. We do have a little presentation I'll do real quick, and maybe that'll answer a lot of your questions. And then from there on, we can answer any questions you might have, and my colleague also will be talking. Just a little background on me. My name is John Wesley McKenzie. I am a preacher's son, so I'm very comfortable in a church. I did grow up kind of in this area. My dad had a church in Fresno. When I went to elementary school, moved here in 1980 to Oakdale, went to Oakdale High, graduated from there. Started my career in social services while I was at MJC, did basically outreach and, not outreach, but the halfway houses, did case management, conservatorship, also case management in IMDs, did 5150 work. And then back in 2015, I ran the homeless court program and the Garden Gate Respite on 5th Street, which is basically just around the corner here. Did that for 4 years and took some time off. And my wife was like, hey, you need to do something else. And some friends of mine were part of Chat, and I heard about Chat. It was about a year old, and I was really excited to start something that's a brand new program. There was only 2 members at the time. We had lost Randy Lumberg to COVID, who was one of the Chat members. And I got an opportunity to get recruited for that, and I've been here for about a year and a half. So the Chat team is about 2.5 years old at this point. So we can move to the next slide. So basically our mission is to address vacancy issues, building partnerships, collaborations between the criminal justice system and social medical services. So basically what we are is we don't particularly provide a service like a direct service, but what we are is our linkage to services in real time in the community. Go ahead and next. So what Chat came from is basically the reimagining of the policing services. And obviously things have changed. There's been a change in culture that you folks were just talking about as far as at the police station and under the leadership of Chief Gillespie. What we are is now is they're embedding social workers in the police department. Also, they're embedding social workers in the public defender's office as well. They did that about the same time as they started the Chat. They're doing that at the public defender. I did work there for a year consulting, which was a privilege. They let me do that over there for a while. And what we're doing is we're linking people that need something in the community that an officer can't necessarily provide. So we show up to calls off the board, 911 calls or dispatch calls, and we provide, like I said, linkage to all sorts of services that we are familiar with. Because of the disciplines of our team, we know what's out there and what services are available. So we do kind of like a needs assessment right then and there, and then we determine, hey, where does this fit? Where does this person go? Be it shelter, SUD treatment, or well, basically anything, but we'll cover that too, because my partner will cover some of that too. Next slide, please. So yes, like I said, we respond to 911 calls, and we also support the police officers if they need our help to respond to their calls after they finish their law enforcement duties, and they need our support. We do that as well. Next one. So my partner is going to talk a little bit about some of our connecting and supportive services that we provide and the partnerships that we have.
All right. You good? Yeah, I said table.
Hello, my name is Marlene. I'm also a chat member. I've been here a little bit, a year and a half too, same time around West. So connecting to supportive services, so just how he mentioned, it's a linkage to support services, and everyone in our team has worked in this community for some time. So all of us have a different background. We've came from being housing case managers. We have somebody who actually used to run the Salvation Army on our team. So she's very familiar with how shelter systems work. And we, just like, we have Wes, who has also been part of the mental health community for a while. So nobody on our team comes from previous law enforcement background. All of us are all social work, case management, which is a good thing because it's a good thing because also us having came into law enforcement, it has also kind of taught us the law enforcement side of things too, because I know previously with me as a case manager, social worker, I always did think a police officer had the power to fix everything. And coming in as a social worker into the law enforcement, I'm like, oh, police officers can't fix everything. And, we need the support of everybody. So we're familiar with the resources in Stanislaus County, even outside, and so each call is different. So just how Wes mentioned, each call that we go to, we do like a quick risk assessment, kind of address what they need at the moment. Sometimes they might need a shower and a meal, and so we know that the community offers a shower shuttle. So we offer them, we can transport you there, we can provide you with a bus pass, but today at 11 a.m. there's showers. And so sometimes they don't know that, and sometimes that's all that they need to get out of their crisis for that moment. So that's just one of the things that we do, but sometimes they're just like, you know what, like, I was just assaulted and I'm hungry and I'm this, so we'll work on the basic needs, like you're hungry, you need water, but you were assaulted, let me call for a police officer because they can talk to you about that. So that's just the way that we work when we come to connecting supportive services. And we also are very familiar within the community, like we attend a lot of like community liaison meetings as well, so that everybody is aware how to get a hold of us. Right now, the way that the best practice is through the non-emergency, if anybody does want to get connected to us, and it has been pretty successful. We do get some people who call and actually say, hey, I have a person here who looks like they need help, can you send a chat unit? So we go out there, and typically for us, because of what we do in that linkage and connection to resources, we are able to stay on a call as long as we need. So sometimes we're on a call for 2 hours because we can't de-escalate them, or they're needing a little bit more attention, or we need another unit to come in and kind of assist us with transportation or whatever the case might be. So that's really nice too, that we have that freedom to be able to stay with that individual as long as they need to be connected to a supportive service and, kind of de-escalate and get out of their crisis. So this goes hand in hand with building partnerships, just like I mentioned. Our team does like to go out into the community, do community events, attend community liaison meetings, just to have that open communication and open dialogue with whoever it might be, us to see what we can do, because there's new resources all the time. There's new funding that comes in and programs that stop functioning. So it's really good to just stay in touch. And one of the good things about having built partnerships is that we are able to know of a resource, and it's really nice to see that if I have somebody who is currently, like, maybe they're I can't make that determination, but like maybe I can assume that they're in a psychosis and that there's might be something that I can't provide for them because they're that deep into a mental health crisis. I know that there's partnerships that we have where I can call a case manager who I call and I'm like, I'm on a call. I believe this is your client. They're like, I'm on my way. They come and they do their own clinical assessment, and then we have the ability to call for an ambulance and have them, be taken and assessed further if needed. So that's one of the good things that about partnerships is that we can call these partnerships and they're willing to help us because we can work together to serve that person that's in need. So in the case management services, just like we mentioned earlier, they are case by case. Some calls, like I said, we can show up and it's 10, 15 minutes, and some of them it's 2 hours, and some of them will require follow-up. We sometimes come across families with children who we place them in a shelter temporarily, but we have to follow up with them in 2 days once that temporary shelter is up, 2 to 3 days, and that's just a little bit of the case management that we are able to do, because we also know that working with some individuals is going to be a little bit more extensive because of whatever need they have that needs to be met, or however, or maybe sometimes some partnerships are a little bit tied up and they're like, hey, I can come out tomorrow or 2 days from now, and we can take over from there. So for those 2 days, our team will work together in those 2 days, we're going to provide a little bit of case management, kind of meet their needs for those 2 days until we can do the warm handoff to the case managers and social workers that they're already attached to or that they need to be attached to. That was, the ESRI, if you can go back another slide. Does it skip? Oh, it was the next one. Okay. So ESRI, it's what says it up there, Environmental Systems Research Institute. So that is an actual program that was established by the city of Modesto, and that's how we collect our data. So it is considered an outreach contact. So everybody that we talk to, we gather as much information, whether name, last name, birthday, anything that they're willing to share. And we gather it like live, so when I'm talking to them, the system will pick up like the location, and you guys have access to it on the city website. If you guys were to look it up, you guys can see if we're working and we're talking to somebody, it'll pop up on the screen like that we just submitted in ESRI, so that means we just engaged somebody in the community at that time. And so you can see how many people we've engaged in the community, how many people are taking services, how many people are declining services, and then you can also see like how many people are duplicated, and you can even see which areas in the city of Modesto are like high calls for service or have high engagement of individuals in crisis. So anywhere in, if we're in the west side, if we're in Airport, we're in the north end, you can see how much engagement or where we spend most of our time at. So you guys have access to that. Yeah, there's the map. So that's just the dashboard. And like I said, it's available on the city of Modesto. I can't really see from here, but I think from what it says that as of this, in total since the program started, we've had over 4,000 people accept services. And like I said too, a lot of this could be duplicated, so it could be multiple people. Some people we engage about 20, 30 times.
Okay. We'll get a printout of this.
Yes.
Is this on Modesto Gov, right?
Yes.
It's on the dashboard. And it's under enhanced community, is that it?
Yes, it's under ESRI. It's under ESRI.
Yes.
It's part of the Camp Tahoe.
It's really nice if you guys look at it.
like the west
Can
side.
you go back to that slide, please?
Yes.
If you don't mind. That's on H Street.
The red? Yes.
So that's where most of your calls are coming.
Well, I would say I think just off
This
the
is
top
hot
of,
spot, is
yeah.
what you're saying.
Off the top of my head, I think I would say a lot of our time is spent between the West Side Airport District, and I would say even somewhere up by like Briggsmore and Pellendale area.
Okay.
So,
You ever run into Blue?
yes.
It's one of the reasons why we wanted you here. We figured we were your largest call to service.
Yes, actually, I think in our emails, we just got an update of how many calls we've actually done year to date, right?
Yeah, over 4,000.
Just
Yeah.
2 years.
Just 2 years.
Yeah. So just to piggyback on what she was saying, also, we are in Walmart Blue, so we are not sworn officers. We are not officers. We make that very clear when we roll up on people. And also, the different way that we've engaged people, we're building relationships with folks on the street. So when we roll up, a lot of times they're walking towards us instead of away from us. And we're building relationships to the point where, okay, we've met with you 10 times, today's the day, it's gonna happen, and that's part of how we support the police officers. Also, we do about 80 calls a week that the officers don't have to show up at. So that's a great thing.
Councilman?
How are you going to interact with CareCorps?
That's a good question. We just had a meeting recently with the BHRS leadership and the City of Modesto leadership on a Zoom meeting, and our lieutenant. And
Is that Hammond?
Hammond is our lieutenant, and Sergeant Schuler is our sergeant. And basically, when you read the regs, the window to get folks into CareCorps is very small. They have to have two 5150s and 5250s within a year, and the last one being within 60 days. Also, once they get in, it's basically the court mandates that they go to a service provider to write a care plan, but the care plan is voluntary. So there's kind of they're trying to figure out kind of how that law is going to actually help. A lot of it is to give the families an ability to go on record in the court system that they have concerns about an individual. So that's kind of more what it's about. But what we're going to try to do is build a list of high-profile folks that we see on the streets every day that really the community is going, why aren't you helping this person? They're walking around wrapped in a blanket, no shoes, talking to themselves. Why aren't they getting help? The optics aren't good, and we understand that, but there's a legal process, there's personal rights, that we have to work around. So that's a conversation that's happening right now, because it's a new law. So we're trying to figure that out.
How many chat people do you have in our personnel?
We have 6, and they just interviewed I think over 30. They
37.
interviewed 37 people,
Candidates.
37 candidates just last week. So hopefully in the next 6 months, we should double in size. We're looking to hire 6 more.
And we're looking to do 7 days a week, between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Our requirements? Oh, geez. Everything from high school diploma with learned experience to, I have a master's degree. So everywhere in
Yeah.
between, it's basically how you interview, where your passion lies, some of your background, what you've done in human services, that sort of thing. We're not really looking for law enforcement, we're looking for human services professional folks that have worked or have even been part of human services, have been, gotten services themselves.
I have a quick question. Where do you guys see chat going in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, do you guys expect your organization to have task forces by then? Or how do you guys envision your guys' organization being in 10 years?
Well, chat right now is part of the alternative response unit. So our unit consists of park rangers, HART officers, and like our sergeants. So right now it's
Abatement
an abatement. So
and PU.
an NPU, which just started, it's the Neighborhood Preservation Unit. So we all kind of have a little bit of a different role that we play when it comes to that. So I foresee in 5 years, I mean, we're going to be doubled in size. I would hope that we probably have a lot more park rangers too assisting with any kind of crises or homeless issues occurring in the parks. Right now, we do assist a lot of other units within the department when they have special like operations going into trying to better support the community. We go into different, I wouldn't call them operations. I don't know, that sounds a little, you know, because we don't have any authority to like do anything like that, but we do have we are asked a lot when officers are conducting those types of operations, and they might foresee that some people will be better helped by our unit or our team versus an arrest or whatever, you know, their operation has going on. But I do foresee that in 5 to 10 years, our unit's probably going to be doubled in size, and I don't.
To piggyback on that, Lieutenant Hammond, one of his sayings is he's a doer, not a talker. So he's actually, we've talked about this, is having a case manager as part of our team to follow up for those warm handoffs that Marlene was talking about, and also maybe even a clinician or an SUD person. So there's conversations. It's
Okay.
always it's gonna evolve.
Brother Starks.
You know, I had the opportunity to call the chat team, and I want to say you guys do a good job,
Thank you.
Thanks.
you know, because up and down this corridor right here,
Yes.
I heard the pastor say we're red, I thought we were the yellow.
Yeah.
It's like fire.
We do get a lot of calls for service on this street
Yeah, we do.
specifically.
Particularly right there.
Yeah,
Right, yes.
That strip of
yeah,
Just right there.
yeah.
I heard, you know, the lady say 20 calls on an individual or something so that they can get help. I heard you talk about the individuals that's wrapped in a sheet or whatever, right? And I'm looking at things because I'm here probably about 3 or 4 times a week sometimes. And we've got a young lady that beats out over here across the street. Should I give an address? And she's naked half the time, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why doesn't someone help this young lady, you know? Obviously, there's something going on with her.
Right.
And it's
Can I
just
speak to that?
like it's over and over again.
Can I
One second. And, you know, once before, I remember seeing a vehicle, I think it's called start with an A. What is it? It's a surveillance vehicle that police use.
Oh, the armadillo.
Armadillo.
Yeah.
Armadillo. And I'm saying, why don't they use that vehicle in some ways to kind of identify situations that's happening in areas so that you don't have to call 20 or 30 times?
Right.
I don't know.
Be pre-dispatched.
You know, you guys, I think you do a good work. Don't get me wrong, because everything that isn't about taking somebody to jail, much less advancing it, but just to provide the help and provide the witness that people
Yeah.
need the service.
Yeah.
And as well, when we talk about our issue, we've got feeding across the street, right? And the people need some food, but also everybody over here, they're not waiting on food. Some of them are waiting on customers, right? And so we could really use the surveillance, I think, in this area to identify those that need help and those who need a little something different, a little
Sure.
bit more
Law enforcement.
accountability,
Yeah.
a little bit more accountability. I don't know, I'm gonna be quiet now. Because it can kind of get frustrating for, you know, us.
Of course.
So trust me, you're preaching to the choir here. I am an advocate for that. I've gotten in trouble speaking in meetings about that particular subject. The folks that are high profile, that are on the corner, that look extremely disabled and are seemingly not getting any help. To speak towards that, as a deputy conservator for Stanislaus County at one time, and as a person that wrote 5150s, the criteria is you're a danger to self, danger to others, which is really easy to see. The third one is grave disability, and that is the ability to not provide for your basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter, or access services in the community to meet your basic needs. That is a very thin line. To get a GD, out of all the 5150s I've done a handful of GDs off the street. And mostly it was because they were in danger of imminent death. I could make one of those stick. So it's really difficult to get a GD because that woman may look like she is gravely disabled, but she's eating, she's going and getting, her needs met, but it just isn't the way we would seem would be normal. So those are the people that I would like to help identify, to bring a little extra support to figure out how we can help them, even if it seems like, we're trying to save them from themselves. But there's this fine line between personal rights and the law, and it's a struggle right now. And my mission is to identify those people for the care court and try to figure out how do we help those people. Because in my personal opinion, this is just me talking, I think it's somewhat unfair to society to have people walking around that are seemingly dangerous or scary or extremely disabled. There's got to be a way we can help them and protect our society at the same time, but make sure everyone's rights are observed. So that's the rub. So when you say you have to call a lot, continue to call. Because my colleague, says we gather all of that information. Well, pretty soon I'm going to have so-and-so that you called on, I'm going to homeless court and say, I have 60 calls on this person. Why aren't we doing something? Oh, all of a sudden they're at the top of the list. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So every call builds a case. And what we call in conservatorship is the Guerrero Act. We look back and we say, hey, does this person use the 911 system to meet their basic needs? Well, then if that's the case, maybe we should look at something else for this person. Because if they're using 911 just to meet their basic needs, maybe they are gravely disabled. Maybe we need to look at that case. So keep calling.
Dr. Nicole.
I know there's only 6 of you right now, and so what's your hours that you're able to cover the shifts?
So right now we have a team. We have, we're Monday through Friday. We have one team on Monday that works 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And then we have 3 teams Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, work the same time, 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And then Tuesday, Thursdays, we have a team out till 9 p.m. And then today, once a month, today is our, once a month, we work a weekend, so we work a Saturday or a Sunday. And so today was our Saturday, and that's why we're here working today on a Saturday.
Yeah.
One more question. So I was just talking to, we do get a lot of traffic, right? Like literally right here. And since the smoke shop is a whole other issue, I would love us to address like why the smoke shop is there so close to the school and literally right across from the church. A lot of our people, it's getting darker earlier. And so I had one of our members, she was coming in for our Tuesday women's book session. She's like, for the first time in a long time, I did not feel safe. Like, I did not feel safe. Like, I
Yeah, we have our contact information on there, and then we can share our contact personally after. Sometimes, and we can forward it to our sergeant. I know that sometimes we do extra patrol requests. So if you send a detailed email to either me or Wes, we forward it to our sergeant, and then he can give us the go to be able to provide an extra patrol request. Because I know that that's sometimes we do that.
Also, I don't know if you're familiar with the Go Modesto app. There's, yeah, there's a Go Modesto app where you can post pictures and comments for extra patrols. It'll go straight to the ARU unit, our unit. The HART officers discern what extra patrols are needed, and our sergeant, and we'll roll through extra for that particular thing.
Or you can have Wes' cell number.
Yeah, well, there you
Yeah.
go. Nick's got
Just
my
call
cell
Wes.
number. He's like, hey, man, you know,
Deborah.
Quick question, and I might have missed it. How many 5150s you guys do per month?
No, I personally in my career have done them. I'm just saying that's a passion for me. That's why I do this work, is helping folks that really don't have the insight to know they need help. And working with people with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder
50-50.
is my background.
Close.
So that's
Okay.
my passion, that's
Yeah.
all.
So the
We
chat
don't
team
do
doesn't
that.
actually write 51.
No,
No.
and we do have, you want to tell them about IMSERT?
Oh, so Modesto Police actually has right now the program called the MCERT program. So they do have a clinician who rides out with officers Monday through Friday. As of right now, I think it's a 8 to 5 or a 12 to 8. They have two clinicians that ride out and they specifically only go to 5150 calls or any like attempted suicide calls, anything that's like fits in that criteria that they need to be clinically assessed. The officer who has the clinician that day with them will be responding only to those calls. So they can go anywhere from 5150s at schools to homes to like maybe if there's like somebody on the street who might be in need of that. And then if I know that if the clinician goes out, does an assessment, does her or his assessment, and they don't meet 5150 criteria, the clinician has a mental health outreach team that she will contact for them to follow up for mental health resources. I know that also for us, if we go to a call where we call for an officer and the officer says they don't meet criteria for 5150, I know that our team's practice is to call the CERT line and schedule them a mental health assessment. And once we get the mental health assessment set up, we work with that individual, and we're like, hey, you know, your mental health assessment is in a week at 9 a.m. Where will you be at? Where can I meet you? Where can I find you? So we can pick you up and make sure you make it to your mental health assessment. So the MPD has that clinician, and then the way we do 5150s is we rely on the officer to make those determinations.
Dr. Huey.
IMSERT,
MCERT, so it stands for the Mobile Crisis Response.
Emergency Response Team.
Oh, Mobile Crisis Emergency Response Team. Yeah,
MCERT.
MCERT. Yeah, I missed a little bit of it.
CERT is the Crisis Emergency Response Team, and they are over by the
In series.
by the PUF, which is the Psychiatric Health Unit. No, facility. Psychiatric Health Facility, which is the county locked facility for folks that are at 5150 crisis. And then you have DBHC, which is another facility on Claus and Briggsmore, which is another 5150 crisis unit.
Dr. Huey, you had a question.
I have two questions.
Yes.
One, you guys only service the city of Modesto, so what about the outlying?
Yes, we only service the city of Modesto.
Yes, and then so there's a care team that is connected to the
Probation.
county and probation. That is a multidisciplinary team that goes out into the county.
Okay.
And then the last question is, your hours, of course, are like normal business hours, so what happens after hours? Because that seems
Well, we're around between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. So that's our chunk. We have done later, and we have. It seems though, anytime after 9, it's more of a police officer situation. We have follow-ups that the police officers will say, we have designated beds at the shelter facilities like Salvation Army that are police officer beds. So those facilities hold those beds, and after hours, they'll take that person to that bed. It's only for one night, and then we get the call, hey, follow up with that person in the morning and see what we can do to help them. So there's a mechanism there in place. But yeah, we tried night, but for us, if everyone's closed, there's not much we can do beyond just use a police bed.
Also, I think because we are non-sworn,
Yeah.
so I think there's like a risk or a safety factor for us to work like a midnight and get dispatched to an encampment. I know that we have pepper spray, but, and the radio and our camera, but
And that's it. And
I think, yeah. But I think maybe in the near future not in the near future, but maybe like in the 5-year, maybe that might be different.
Yeah.
But I think right now, because we are non-sworn, I think there's like a safety factor that they take into consideration about how late we can work.
Sure. Sister Eloise, you had a question.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to know, is there any type of partnership with the schools where you guys call out instead of the police officers if there's an incident on campus? And I'm also curious to know what the African American percentage is as well.
So as far as for the schools, I know that we do have a detective who is assigned to do the like community engagement stuff, and he is actually, I think, most of his time he spends on the west side, in the schools in the west side. So he does reach out to different officers. He's reached out to our team. I know I've gone a couple times to do community engagement with the students, and we have lunch with them. We talk to them. As far as calls go, my background, I think it just really depends, but I know my background, I worked 10 years prior to this, and I worked with youth, specifically at-risk youth and homeless youth. So I'm pretty familiar with how to handle anything that has to do with the youth. And as far as like within our unit, within our team, if there's I think it just really depends on the way we screen the call, because I know we've responded to some calls where parents are having difficulty sending their kids to school. And that's something that I've done. Like I've went and I talked to the kids, see what's going on. I know we've had instances where we had a kid AWOL'd from school, and officers responded, but then they called us to see, hey, maybe you guys are better equipped to maybe have a conversation with this youth and see what's going on in school. So we don't get a lot of like calls like for us to go to schools, but we have had officers call us when they deem that maybe the family or that youth might need a connection to some type of services. So.
See what I mean though? Different discipline. That's her background. She brings that to the table, and she speaks Spanish. That's helpful.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm always in Crow's Landing.
She's always interpreting for us.
I
Oh,
was wondering,
the
you go ahead.
percentage.
Did you grab those numbers?
I'm gonna try to look for it right now.
Okay, Austin, you had it.
Okay, I have a quick question. Because I don't know if everyone's kind of familiar with this, but there was a critical incident with an officer. I want to say it was earlier this year, and I forgot the officer's name, but the police footage actually did show that they had to shoot a man who was 5150, and he attacked an officer. He ended up living, but they had to shoot him in the situation. So my question is, at first when they were talking to this man, they had him under control, but he seemed very uncomfortable because there was police involved in the situation. And his parents called for the police to come, and I guess he's had these spasm attacks multiple times, and he was 5150. Now in that situation, do the police department call you guys to come and assess that person for a 5150 on spot? Or would they call you guys in that situation to come and actually help out that person in that situation, so they don't necessarily get into a position where they actually put their life at risk because they're very uncomfortable with the police and they're dealing with
the only reason we would go to a call like that is if after officers deem that there's no safety risk for us to be able to engage them. Because if there's a safety risk, they don't want to put us in a situation where we get attacked, because again, we're non-sworn. And I think that's where, I don't know, I'm not familiar with that event that you're speaking of, but I'm not sure if maybe I would say I think it's been under a year, but I would say that in those situations now, that's why they have the clinician. So that clinician would probably be the one to do the assessment, not us.
Yes, we don't do 5150 assessments. That's not what we do.
Okay, and lastly, this is my last question. Two things. Would you guys look to have an internship program for high school students and college students currently at NJC, Humphreys Nursing School, ITT Tech, Gurnick Academy? And my next question is,
That was a good one. That was a
I don't think we've ever thought about the internship. I think it's because it's such a new program, so it's still a pilot program, but I think it could be something that we could bring up once the team is well established. I don't see why it wouldn't be something that would be talked about or considered to do an internship for high schoolers or college students.
the reason why I asked that is because I understand that you guys are funded by pretty much maybe an outside entity. I'm not necessarily sure, but however, I understand that budgeting is very important. So having volunteers would actually save you guys money, and maybe you guys can utilize some of the money and other different resources. Now, my last question is that what is deemed as a safety risk? So, like, if you guys are in that position, what is deemed as a safety risk or an imminent threat to where you guys cannot be called to some of those calls? What does that look like? Like, what is the criteria?
So if somebody calls and says there's somebody in front of the McDonald's and they're holding a pipe and swinging it, we would not be allowed to go to that because if their behavior is erratic, we wouldn't be able to respond to that because the person who called it in said that they had a pipe or a weapon that essentially if we responded, we could, if they decided to hit us with it, it would just be like a safety issue because we wouldn't be able to defend ourselves. The way we could end up responding is if an officer responds to it, sees that, I don't know, removes the pipe or sees that it's not a safety issue, then they'll say, can we have a chat unit respond? And then we will respond once there's no threat, there's no imminent threat.
The reason why I asked that is purely because, you have similar situations to where not everyone is brandishing a weapon or something that can cause imminent threat. It can be simply as just screaming and shouting.
Right.
That can be due to mental illness and a lot of different other scenarios. So, the reason why I asked that question is, does that count as a safety risk also, or is it only when you're brandishing a weapon?
We will roll up on people that are acting out, and we will observe them from afar, and then we will decide, hey, do we want to approach this person or not? And that's usually just based on our training.
Okay.
And then also just to backtrack on your
First question.
first question, there's also explorers and cadets.
And you
through the
work in
police
partnership
department,
with them as well.
and then you can move laterally. So there's that option to start volunteering. And then we also encourage you to call our sergeant, talk to him about it. We're open to suggestions as far as that goes.
Yes, go right ahead.
Your funding comes from the general fund.
Yeah, I think it's ESG. Yeah, I think it's ESG.
Yes.
From the thought, the new officers are funded through the state. When they send all the prison folks down to the county, and they said, we'll send money, they actually did. And it's through
What is that? They're funding it from the state.
The new
the
ones.
chat females, yeah, that, the funding,
Is that a grant?
it's a grant, they got, it was $5 million a year countywide, and they're funding all kinds of, little street team, downtown streets team, got expanded based on that.
Okay.
So,
And
yeah, it's very interesting.
I should hang out with you more. And also, I believe they've started with there's a mental health social worker that's
Yes,
Yes.
that's the MCERT.
The MCERT, correct.
Yeah, they're going on the 5150 calls. Yes.
There's something else that's not had nothing to do with the police review board, but Homeless Alliance, Stanford's Homeless Alliance, and we're seeing this should be encouraged, we're seeing a shift, like within the city, police department is, we went from this to this. In Sacramento, there's a real shift from, people can just do whatever they want to do to, you gotta be responsible. And that's where the care court came from, but it's a very limited area, but there's conversations at each of the bills in the governor's office to include substance abuse disorders in that care court. Which we all know that if substance abuse disorders, that's one of the big things that we're up against. And so there is a shift in that kind of thinking,
Okay.
which I think is a good thing, which will help. And I don't know how it plays out in a conservatorship if you're a substance abuse disorder, but the way it displays itself, you can't tell whether they're legitimately
Mental health or
mental health
substance.
Or it's drug induced or what.
drugs.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's difficult.
And that's why,
And their personal rights, and there's a lot of different factors involved.
but I think there's a shift towards some accountability, because, it's not right that they should be having contact with the same person 100 times.
Right.
Right.
That's, at some point, there's gotta be a stick that says, you can't do this anymore.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things I know that for us, when we have had, and it doesn't happen often, but if there is somebody who the heart officer, which is the one in our unit, he has came in contact with them, and we've contacted them 20, 30 times. At some point, the heart officer makes that decision that today he's going to take them to jail as like the accountability piece, because he's seen that they're not open to talking to us, they're not open to taking services, because sometimes we do get that. Sometimes people are like, nope, I'm not talking to you, I don't want anything, and it's fine, they don't have to talk to us, they don't have to accept services. But after the heart officer sees, it's like, I keep making contact with you and you continue to decline services, at some point you can't continue to keep doing what you're doing, because now I'm gonna have to take you to jail. Yeah. On the other side, yes.
Right.
If you want to get out of jail and not serve your 6 months, then you can go to drug rehab.
Well, and that's where
Yes.
the embedded caseworkers at Public Defender will
Right.
take that case and then work with them. And we work with them as well.
There's been a lot of change in that whole system, right?
Very much so.
The public defender
Right.
has really decided, together with the VA, to try and help people, because
Of course.
the system's not working now.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our
Thank you.
chat team. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come, and let me say, this needs to be an ongoing type of conversation. We need to extend it again and again to the community members and the stakeholders in our neighborhood. So I would love for this to happen again at a weekend where you guys are pulling that weekend duty, where you can come in and again field some questions. And same with our Citizens Review Board. I know you don't have power, but you have the greatest power. You have representation for our community. You give us a voice. And we want to start that process of being able to open the lines of communication to your members from here. And I heard a couple of action items we're going to take away from here. So for our media team, can we make for tomorrow a QR for that Go app so that we can pass it to our membership to actually report those incidents and get those cases up and in, so the numbers from here will reflect what we're all seeing right outside our doors, so that you can compile that data so that we can get the action that's necessary. And the second thing is, let's begin planning our next conversation with the board president's permission and your second, and even some councilmen, we could get them in to talk as well. We want this to be a point where the community can speak to its representatives and share with it, get a barometer of what's happening here, boots to ground, and our officers to see this as a place, not as contention, but cooperation. This place is well situated for you to see this as a place where you can come and meet the constituents here in a non-hostile environment, a non-engaging in acts of service. And we want to know that you are part of our community as well. And we want to make sure we're supporting you in the work that you do. It's very important. And then lastly, for the church, our mission here is to make sure we're offering help first before we bring in the enforcement of law. We want to be that image, but we do want to have that availed to us as well. When an individual can't be assisted or refuses assistance, we want to know the next piece is available to us as well. So we want a law enforcement, maybe representative in to talk about when we can utilize them, maybe increase their visibility in our neighborhood on this street, something the police review board could talk about as far as practice. Maybe being seen that cruiser in the area more might help get some of the individuals not to gather or loiter in space that's private. All right? Thank you guys again. But yes, Nico, you got that number for us?
So in 2020, there was 395 juvenile arrests. 61% was Hispanic, 6% was Asian, 12% was African American, and 21% was white.
Okay.
So that was 2020.
That was 2020, so that's the most recent data. Thank you for that. And that's a great question for us to get the numbers and to know what we're dealing with, so we'll know how to tailor our questions and our responses to it. All right. Thank you guys so much. God bless you. I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. Thank you guys so much for being here, all right? Consider ourselves dismissed. Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir. Rod Cochran. You're welcome here anytime, okay? Mm-hmm.